Hey guys, Tash here with MetaSouls. Welcome back. And today we're talking about reality and how to effectively change your reality in such a way that you can heal the world along the way. The truth of the matter is that reality is singular. There really is only one reality. You know, we like to talk about different dimensions, the fourth dimension, the fifth dimension. We talk about interdimensional contact. We talk about different realities through our experiences with extraterrestrials or spirit guides, the angelic realm, the astral realm, the dream state realm. And by default, we tend to think that there's some kind of a border that separates these different realms. And if only we had the key, if only we had the right spell, the right meditation, the right drug, the right thought process to be able to unlock the doors that separate these different realities, we could somehow bring happiness into our life or bring adventure into our life. And in this reality, if we could just somehow visualize ourselves being a winner, having the abundance of having money or having love in our life, all of these things that we're spending our time trying to focus on to alter our trajectory, really all comes back to perspective. The boundaries that are keeping us from happiness in this conscious waking state versus these other alternative realities, realms, or dimensions all come down to only one thing, and that is our perspective, or the limitations of our perspective that disallow us from viewing the reality as one, where there is no boundaries separating one reality from another. We can begin to change our reality in this life by looking at our perspectives. And when we look at our perspectives, we find that it comes from our beliefs. Now, I've talked about this in other videos, but you know, the whole New Age era has gone on this tangent that if you focus on the things that you want, or even the vibration of the feeling of being happy, etc., that you will manifest that you will somehow break through those boundaries and manifest it. Now, I'm not saying that that won't happen. That can be an effective method. But what happens is it comes truly down to your belief systems, your belief structures that give you the perspective. You can falsify those belief structures and bypass them with the visualization for the things that you want. But if you don't address them at the core and you break them down and be able to shed those belief structures, you're going to be right back at square one. You're going to be trying to astral project into another realm, and it's not going to be successful. You're going to be trying to connect with a version of reality that you want to see in the conscious waking state, abundance, love, whatever, and you're not going to be able to do it. And the reason is that you need to be able to look within to see your belief structures and what they entail. Now, these belief structures are formed from the time you're a child. Every experience that you've gone through that has caused you happiness or pain form these biases. All of the experience by proxy that are given to you by your teachers and your friends and your family and the media and the government and the institutions, the religious institutions, etc., etc. They all have a different color through which they paint the mask that you are then, through a state of obligation, a state of trying to make the world around you happy and make people accept you, and you put that mask on and you view the world through that and you judge every reality through that, and you walk away with a limited version that is different from the other guy, in the same way as a spatial difference where the sun blinds one guy and he can't see what's behind it, and the other guy has the shade of the tree where he can see the objects behind, and they both walk away with very different perspectives. The same thing through the perspectives of your belief systems, the different emotions that you feel, the way that you interpret events as being good or bad. How many times have you seen detective investigations that look and question the witness panel, and they come out with very, very different versions of what happened, even to the point of selecting two different people from a lineup that committed only one crime, only one person. Now, these differences are because of our belief systems that are influence the way that we see things, the way that we feel things, the way that we judge things, and we polarize ourselves in and try to identify and connect ourselves with the aspects of an experience that we like, and we tend to really judge and repel and push away the experiences that we don't like based on our past and based on our teachings. So if you really want to break down the borders between all these realities, we can begin in this version of reality that we see right here in the conscious waking state. We can begin by putting ourselves in the shoes of other people around us and asking ourselves, really, what are the statistical probabilities that my viewpoint is always right over the other person? We're insane to think so, and our ego somehow fools us into thinking that our views on politics or morality or what have you are all valid, and the other people's viewpoints, their perspective, their versions of reality are not valid. So we can begin by identifying the beliefs within ourselves that causes us to gravitate towards one particular polarity or one bias over another, that as it differs from everybody else around us. And once we can begin to loosen that up and let some of those beliefs go and float through the events that are happening in life and be able to have the empathy to see through the eyes of the other, then we begin to tear down the walls within our own conscious reality that seems to separate different versions of this reality. Then you become used to it. You start shifting from the individual consciousness to the collective consciousness because you're breaking fourth dimensional laws. Fourth dimensional laws are the linearity of space and time. And when you begin to put yourself into the perspective of another person in another place, in another time, in another perspective angle through different beliefs, you're breaking that linearity. You're jumping timelines. You're connecting with their mind and their consciousness, and you have an affinity with them where you create a collaborative network, and you're beginning the evolutionary shift from individualized consciousness to collective consciousness. Once you begin to do this and you become fluid with it in this conscious waking state, you find it's the same thing when you begin to break down the walls of other realities beyond the conscious state, in the subconscious, in the superconscious, communicating with spiritual guides, astral projection, or what have you. But we all have to take a step back and look at this reality and look at the planet in the what is truly causing our what is truly blocking our evolutionary progress. It's conflict. And where does conflict come from? It comes from different perspectives and the ego causing us to hang on to our particular perspective that is based on our belief and repel against anybody else that has a different perspective. And this is the root cause of war. And the way to overcome it is to take a step back and look at our own lives, begin to shed our own beliefs, see the perspectives through the eyes of the other. Now, it's easy to challenge me or anybody else to say, yeah, that's great, but what about killers? What about child molesters? What about people that do very evil things in this world? And I would tell you, when you're in the moment and these things happen, we all have the same feelings and we all play the role and we all get wrapped up in the reality and the gravity of those type of situations. But the way that we feel about that still comes from the way that we view what is right and what is wrong in this world. Now, when you're in the moment, you're almost never going to be able to fully allow something like that to happen. But when you step back and you integrate that experience, you can heal yourself. You can allow yourself to let go and forgive if you're able to widen your perspective and your belief structures to incorporate all that is. So in order for us to have our own unique perspectives and have this experience, in which the ego anchors us into this experience, is to be able to fulfill all of the probabilities of all that is. We are the ever-seeking, perpetually creating, fractalizing experience of oneness of all that is. We are constantly experiencing and fulfilling every potentiality that ever could be, will be, or was. And as we do this, in order to have a particular experience, you need a relative backdrop. For anything to be separate, it can only be separate and experientially defined through the other. We said this in other videos, small versus large, hot versus cold. Any type of experience that you have has a polar opposite that defines it. There cannot be good without bad. There cannot be light without dark. So to think for a moment that you're going to eradicate those things that you don't like and be able to live a very peaceful and happy life is an illusion in itself, because those particular events not only allow and permit the good events to happen, but those events are the seed, the portal through which events later in life will manifest that are greater than the events that you are going through that are painful in your life. If you think back, as I mentioned in a previous video, if you think back to the time you were a young child and you think of the things that were really negative that happened, and you think about certain people in your life or certain events that would not have happened, certain people that you would not have met had it not been for those negative events, you'll see that it's 50-50. Negative and positive work hand in hand in the universe to be able to bring about other experiences. And if you reverse those particular experiences, you can't have these positive things in your life. You are simply a miracle, a product of all of the events that have occurred up until now, the positive and the negative. So when you step back, you can begin to heal those moments that are very difficult when you're in them to understand. But if you work on it and you let your beliefs go, at least you have the theoretical understanding when you move into those type of events that it's not going to suck you in and bring you into that polarity bias where your belief structures take a hold of you once again, your ego anchors you in, it separates you from the other person, and once again you have conflict. And this is how wars begin, and it never ever ends. There's only one way out, and that is building a bridge from perspective to perspective by letting our beliefs go and widening our perspective, allowing the human race to evolve from an individualized consciousness to a collective consciousness. And as you begin to build the bridge and connect with other people around you, you're breaking the fourth dimensional laws of linearity, of space and time. You're moving into the fifth dimensional space, the non-linearity of space and time. You're shifting the evolutionary process of the entire species from the individualized consciousness to the fifth dimensional collective consciousness. So in this way, you are healing the planet. You are helping and aiding towards the accelerated evolution of this planet, and you are changing your reality in a much more effective, grounded, down-to-earth, practical way than sitting back and visualizing yourself with abundance or love and all of these other methodologies that I'm not going to say don't work, but it all comes back to your own perspective that links back to your belief structures. And if we want to heal the world and we want to overcome the conflicts, the walls that exist between the myriad of realities in order to step back and see there's only one reality, and these different perspectives are like rivers that flow into the ocean, and we are able at one point to see that there is only one ocean and that every drop does end up as one. So I hope this video opens your mind about this, and you can begin to study it yourself by taking situations, be it arguments that you have with other people, politics, or things that people do that irritate you or that infuriate you, trace those back to the roots of your belief structures that make you feel that you have to judge that person and push them away, or the things that even that you really love about people that make you want to cling and hang on to them and not let them move or grow or change. What we're all trying to do, and I've mentioned this before, is we're trying to validate our beliefs. And anything that matches this belief structure, this lens through which we see the world, anything that matches it, we're going to cling to that. And it's going to bring us a temporary state of happiness. But those are not the things that are going to heal this world. Those are not the things that are going to break down the boundaries of perspective from one person to another. It's the things that challenge those perspectives, the things that go against it, that you want to repel, and you say, wait a minute, I'm going to allow these events to happen, and I'm going to move with it, and I'm going to try to see through that perspective, and I'm going to widen my perspective until we are one. And this is where the healing begins, the collaboration, and you can connect with your fellow citizens and begin to build a world in which we can move together as a species. And once we do that, we will begin to move on to the next step, where once we can get along with each other, we'll be ready for contact with other civilizations in the physical sense, in a very real sense. But until then, we have to deal with the aliens around us, the different perspectives that they have, and the different eyes that through which they see the world. So until next time, Tash, Metasouls, live, let go, and love.